Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, the whole sector. We'll go over the dollar 10-year yield and go through all the different commodities. And I'll give you my financial opinion on all this. So let's just dive right in. We've got the DXY. The dollar strengthened a little bit today. We're right at that resistance area. We've been kind of popping off this resistance line the past couple of weeks. We are starting to pop off it again. We're right on that resistance line. We'll see if we can break higher or if we're going to go back within the pattern like we've done over history. But stronger dollar, stronger 10-year yield. Is this 10-year yield going to continue higher here? It looks like it wants to. Or are we putting in a pattern where, it could reverse? And this is what I mean by this, something like that. Is this going to squeeze up eventually and head lower, or are we going to pop out higher out of this thing? We do have this bearish engulfing pattern right here. That guy right there is a bearish engulfing, which threw us lower. We've got the bullish engulfing, which is throwing us higher. And we're seeing what the buyers and sellers are doing right in this tip over here. If we break lower, where we break out of this pattern to the downside, I think that a recession and the fears of those recessions are gripping the markets, and that could transpire into lower prices. If it breaks higher out of this guy to the upside, then I think it's inflation. The inflationary pressures are game on. Everything's still intact for even the short term. Either way, medium, long term, I still think there'll be inflation. I still think we have energy problems. But in the very short term, this could break down and we could see lower prices if this were to break lower. TLT, which is the 20-year Treasury bond ETF, this still looks bearish to me, where we could potentially head lower out of this ascending wedge pattern. So that's broken to the downside. That usually continues lower for some period of time. And that usually would correlate with higher yields, lower bond prices. So that would say that inflation is still alive and well, and that the bond market is still selling off. This is the CRB index. Are we going to get this A, B, C correction out of this? Again, I'm watching this. I don't know which way this thing's going to break out of here. We very well could pull back more and get kind of this C correction, or we could break higher and it's all game on. But I'm seeing mixed signals. Yields almost, yields are going higher. We haven't broken out of that. Bond prices look like they're going lower. Those all correlate. And commodities usually go higher with higher yields and lower bond prices, usually. But it could, I'm just giving one scenario where it could do an ABC correction. Gold doesn't like those higher yields and higher dollar price. It did pull back today. We are on this support line coming down here. We're starting to play with that support line where we could potentially break lower. Silver is also pulling on back. Every time we get some momentum out of this, it almost seems like we get a pullback out of it, but we're still above the broken down trend line. We're above support. We just have a little bit more selling pressure today. Platinum is also the same way, a little bit of selling pressure today. I don't see any turnaround candlesticks. I still think in the very short term, we could head a little bit lower before heading higher. Broken down trend line. We're above support. We're in the pattern here. Everything really hasn't changed. XEU to gold ratio, the miners selling off a little bit more today. We are still above this breakout trend line. We still want to hold above this low here. That's really what we want to hold, is above this low, where we make a low, a higher low, and then a higher low. But we really need to break out of this downtrend here. And we got to put some work in before we break that downtrend line. SILJ selling off today on the daily candlesticks. A little bit more selling pressure. We're still above support, and we've broken the downtrend line. GDX also sold off today, but we're still, again, broken down trend line above support. We've got Crude oil with a large reversal today. I saw it lower today, and we're right on that. We're grinding on this support line. We're maybe slightly below it. Looking across to the left where the support levels are at, we can look across here. We've got good support kind of coming through this way in here. That's like $75. We also have support right at about 85. There's a couple of different support levels right underneath it as we fall lower. And we're right on this support line coming up and across. We're slightly below it, but it's trying to climb back above it. Right now, we could break a little bit lower. You kind of look at a weekly candlestick basis. And you can see the large down weeks out of this, and they are much larger than the up weeks. We've got these large down candlestick, weekly candlesticks that we continue to head lower on, and we're still on that support level. I'd like to see a little bit bigger wick happen where we buy it back up throughout this week and show that this support line is holding. Natural gas has also been ultra volatile. Here's the dailies. We have this line coming through here. It's somewhere in this general vicinity here. We've got resistance through this area up here. You can see all those candlestick tops where there's wicks at the top, where we've traveled up here, sold off, traveled up here, we're selling off again. The sell-off isn't super strong. There's no reversal candlestick. It's not strong like that candlestick there, or maybe this candlestick here, or this one here. We don't have any large down candlesticks yet. We need to watch to see if we're going to pull back lower here, or if we're going to break on through to the upside. But we're right at that kind of decision point where the buyers are hitting selling pressure, and we're going to find out which one is going to win and push that momentum either lower or higher here. XOP, yeah, you know me. It opened lower today, and it finished quite strong with a bullish engulfing. That usually resolves itself higher. I'm surprised that it finished so strong today by the end of the day. So that is a little bit good for the buyers and the momentum to the upside. Energy service companies, it gapped lower in the morning. It ended up above yesterday's closing price. It's almost a bullish piercing, not quite, but we're getting a little bit of buying pressure there today. Looking at uranium, the futures pricing was higher today. Let's get on the 5 so we can see it. It's still in this pattern. We were up a little bit, but the stocks didn't fare as well today. The Sprott Physical Uranium Trust down a little bit lower. It's basically sideways for the most part. Broken downtrend above support still looks good. Uranium faring a little bit worse, getting a little bit more selling pressure in some of the mining companies this time around. And we're starting to head back to that support level. So hopefully that support level holds. It started at this bearish engulfing there, and we're starting to pull on back here recently. CCJ also is pulling on back. We've got a little bit more selling pressure today. It was kind of holding in there, and I think we may head a little bit lower in the short term. Coming up with TAN. We were down today. Momentum is sideways for the most part. I think this still looks good on a longer term perspective. It could pull back and do a retest move before going higher. But the downtrend line is broken to the upside, so that's the good thing. Looking at COPX, a little bit of a down day today. It does look like we're trying to put in like a little pattern or something going on here. Something on the lines of this, perhaps. Kind of too early to tell, but again, we've broken the downtrend line. We're above support. Everything still looks okay. Scrolling down to rare earth metals. Rare earth metals getting a sell up, more selling pressure today. We're still in this uptrend. You could maybe throw a trend line off the bottom of this, and we're still kind of on that trend line right now. Lithium rolling higher. We had a little bit of a pullback today. Again, still looks good. There's no reversal candlesticks, no large selling pressure days. The days that I'm looking for are these: bearish engulfing here, bearish engulfing there. Those are the ones that you're going to see selling pressure. Those are reversal points to go lower. I don't see that in here, and sometimes, here's a bearish piercing, but it still ran higher. Statistical we're only playing statistical probabilities here, but no reversal candlestick at this time. Looking at the S&P 500, we did sell off a little bit today. We are approaching this resistance line, that level up there, and we're going to have to either punch through it or we're going to pull on back. We're kind of getting close to this decision point. U.S. Composite Index is just above the trend line. Again, I'm not screaming that we've broken free and we're ready to run yet. The S&P 500 is still below its trend line, and the U.S. Composite Index is just above it. No huge selling pressure yet out of this, so it still looks okay. EEM, emerging markets, still looks good, moving sideways, broken out of its pattern to the upside. Everything's looking okay there on the short term for a potential move higher. XHB selling off a little bit. Again, it's not a reversal candlestick. It's just a small down day. So nothing really too much to fret there. Broken down trend line, still good. Looking at lumber just basically chopping sideways or tracking sideways, still looks good. We've got cocoa futures, broken down trend line, still bullish engulfing today, still looks like it wants to go higher. We've got wheat. Wheat is selling off a little bit. We're right on support. We want to see that support line hold. Otherwise, we could see a breakdown to the downside. Soybeans, it's holding within its pattern right now. And then we've got corn that's also basically tracking sideways in its channel. Copper selling off a little bit today. We'll see if this gets a little bit more selling pressure or if the buyers come in and push it higher. It's really a neutral day in here, just kind of tracking sideways. This is MU, the VanEck. We've got the broken down trend line. It still looks good for a move higher. There's no large selling pressure that I see yet. So that still looks good to me. Aluminum, basically tracking sideways, up 0.7%. It's trying to put in a bottom. It's working off that downside momentum from this large selling pressure. It's just tracking sideways. And it's right on top of support. And then Baltic Dry Index, a little bit of selling pressure there today. And then we're seeing some of the companies also selling off today. So that's what we've got for today. We did see some selling pressure across some of the sectors like uranium. More selling pressure than I thought we would see. We're still above support lines. It hasn't broken yet. So we just have to wait and see what happens with the buyers and sellers over the next couple of days. Oil and natural gas stocks look surprisingly strong. Energy service companies, I would say more split, kind of a flat sideways day. But there are some bullish signals in oil and natural gas. Looking at the other ones, we're still broken down trends, still look good. We just had kind of regular down day. There's no reversal candlestick. And we just have to wait and see what the buyers and sellers do next trading session. And sometimes that's what we have to do, is just get in a holding pattern and see which way this thing breaks. But that's all I've got for today, guys. Give me a thumbs up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website below, Platinum membership, if you guys want to know how I'm positioning for this commodity bull market that's still ahead of us. I can remain a bull in a long-term time frame and be a bear in the short-term time frame. Right now, I'm bullish on almost every time frame. I'm still watching. Sometimes bullish turns to bearish if the sellers come in and start selling it down. But I'm still bullish on natural gas in 2022, the end of 2022. Could we see a little bit more downside pressure in the very short term over the next month? Yeah, it's possible. But I look at these things from 5 to 10 year holds, and I think that the supply-demand balance is all jacked up. So that's where my head is at. Again, we'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.